Hello and welcome back to Kevin Can Play Today. I'm your host Kevin. We get back to our War Thunder docuseries. Today we'll be covering the BF 110, also sometimes known as the ME 110. And this particular model is the C7 model. So here's a photo of them in real life, and let's go to the game. Alright, here we have it in the game. First of all, we'll go over the weaponry of it. This particular model had, so let's take a look at a different view of it. There we go. This particular model had two 20mm cannons down here. Then it had also had four 7.92 machine guns up top there, and then one in the back. Right there it is. There it's highlighted. This one had a crew of two and sometimes three. Let's get out of the X-ray mode. Sometimes they would have an observer or navigator in the middle portion there. It was initially designed to be a three-seater, but generally only ran with two. Later models of the plane, such as the G series, had two 7.92 guns in the back, and they upgraded the 20mm later on, and there were some other interesting variants which we'll cover later. Now, in my opinion, this is a very underrated aircraft. The Bf 110 was an amazing aircraft, especially in the early portion of the war. Later on, moving to more night fighter capabilities. But yeah, it was a very rugged and solid airframe for a heavy fighter in the late 30s and even early into the early 40s. Go more in depth about the armament. The Bf 110's main strength was its ability to accept unusually powerful air-to-air weaponry. Earlier versions had four 7.92 millimeter M17 machine guns in the upper nose and two MG FFM cannons fitted into the lower part of the nose. Later versions replaced the MG FFMs with more powerful 20 millimeters. The MG 151/20 cannons, and many G series aircraft, especially those which served the bomber destroyer role, had two 30mm Mark 108 cannons fitted instead of the MG-17. The defensive armament initially consisted of a single flexibly mounted 7.92 MG-15 machine gun. Later F series and prototype G series were upgraded to a 7.92mm MG-81 machine gun with a higher rate of fire, and the G series was equipped with a twin-barreled MG-81Z. Many G series night fighters were retrofitted or factory built with the Schrag Music off-board gun system, which was a very interesting design. Which fired upward at an oblique angle for shooting down bombers while passing underneath. It was usually manned in the center area here and stuck up at kind of this angle to fire upwards. And it was fixed mounted, which was kind of odd. But, and I think one of the Japanese planes in the game has one that it takes some practice to kind of get used to firing at that angle. It was frequently equipped with two 20mm MG FFMs, but field installations of 20mm MG 151/20s or 30mm Mark 108 cannons were also used. Basically, anything that they had down here, they could throw in up here. Had it not been a fixed gun, I think it might have been a little bit more practical. But it was still very interesting, as a lot of them were used for bomber intercept. So if you couldn't quite get up to the altitude, you could still take shots at them. The Bf 110 G2R1 was also capable of accepting armament such as the Bordkanon series 37mm BK-37 auto-fed cannon, mounted in a conformal ventral gun pod under the fuselage, basically where the bomb rack would be here. A single hit from that weapon was also usually enough to destroy any Allied bomber. The initial Bf-110 C-1B fighter bomber could carry 250 kilo, 200 to 500 kilo, or 2,000 kilo bombs on two racks here in the bottom, and they're nicely center mounted, so it's easier to get on target. Starting with the Bf-110E0, could be supplemented with an additional 4 additional 50 kilo bombs on racks under the wing. I think they were actually placed there. So yeah, that's the general overview of the armament of the plane. And we'll get taken off here and go into a little bit more of the history of the plane itself. Make sure everything's right. They kind of changed some things relatively recently. Okay, that's all good. Alright, let's get going. Did it start me in the air? No, okay, good. Right. So here we are with our lovely Bf-110. For the longest time as a kid, I called it the ME-110. Got our gunner view here. Now the gunner actually had a pretty good field of fire for a plane of its type and day and age. There's that. Here's the cockpit mode. Cockpit view. Now you might be wondering why it's jumping around so much, and that is because those were very powerful engines and very close to the cockpit. So yeah, it took a little bit of practice to get the use of the plane. Didn't shake you up all over the place. Then we'll go back to this view and take off. Alright, didn't have any takeoff flaps. Landing gear. Gain some altitude. Get up to about 1,000 feet first. While we're climbing, the Messerschmitt Bf 110, also unofficially known as the ME-110, is a twin-engine heavy fighter and fighter bomber developed in Nazi Germany in the 1930s and used by the Luftwaffe during World War II. Hermann Goering was a proponent of the Bf-110. It was armed with 2 MG... Well, we already just talked about that, so we'll skip that part. Development work on an improved type to replace the Bf-110, the ME-210, began before the war started, but its teething... but it had some teething problems with its aerodynamics, resulting in the Bf-110 soldiering on until the end of the war in various roles. Alongside its replacements, the ME-210 and the significantly improved ME-410, or Nice. The Bf-110 served with considerable initial success in the early campaigns in Poland, Norway, and France. The primary weakness of the Bf-110 was its lack of agility in the air, which is kind of debatable. I think it's pretty maneuverable for a plane of its type, you know, a heavy bomber. Those powerful twin engines really help with that. Really pull you around pretty good. And this could be mitigated by using proper tactics in the plane, mainly going up against other heavy fighters and bombers. instead of trying to, dogfight with Spitfires. Basically kind of suicided one of these, unless you got pretty good sized formation. And especially against the Hurricanes. They didn't do too well against Hurricanes. They could outmaneuver the Spitfires to an extent because they have combat flaps, and the Spitfire does not. This weakness was exploited when flying as close escort to German bombers to the Battle of Britain by Hurricane fighters. When British bombers began targeting German territory with nightly raids, some Bf-110 equipped units were withdrawn and redeployed as night fighters, a role to which the aircraft was very well suited. After the Battle of Britain, the Bf-110 enjoyed a successful period as an air superiority fighter and strike aircraft in other theaters, and defending Germany from strategic air attacks by day against the USAAF's 8th Air Force. Man, I can't talk today. Until a major change in American fighter tactics rendered them increasingly vulnerable to developing American air supremacy over the Reich as 1944 began. During the Balkans campaign, the North African campaign, and the Eastern Front, it rendered valuable ground support to the German army as a potent fighter bomber. Again, can't talk. Later in the war, it was developed into a formidable radar-equipped night fighter, becoming the major night fighting aircraft of the Luftwaffe. Most of the German night fighter aces flew the Bf-110 at some point during their combat careers, and the top night fighter ace of all time, Major Heinz Wolfgang Schnaufer, flew it exclusively and claimed 121 victories in 164 combat missions. Alright, well, that's pretty much all the fun stuff to learn. For now, the rest of it is just kind of details about the different model types and stuff. They're kind of boring. Anyway, let's go blow up some stuff. Looks like we got a couple tanks over here, or something. Try and put a bomb into. Where's that other one at? I see the one, but I don't see the other. I'll go for the one I can see then. This isn't a dive bomber, so it's not that good on the... not that accurate on the dive. But we got it anyway. Oh, that was an AA gun. No wonder. Tank here, if we can find it. It says we're right over it, but I don't see it. It's not hiding in the trees there. Where the heck is this stupid tank at? It's not hiding in the trees or nothing. That's not it, is it? Oh, apparently it was. Yeah, we're not going to be able to do much damage with it with just these guns. Let's try one more pass. I don't think we even hit it that time. Right, now, there should be some other planes up here with me. Somewhere. Let's go see if we can't find them. guys at? On the map? No. It's open. Maybe. Says there's some this way. Over here. That looks like a thing. Okay, the thing on the map looks like it was a friendly vehicle. Oh, that's a bridge. Oh, wherever it is. Oh, it was a train. We just kill ourselves a train. Alright, now let's try some fun aerobatics. You know me, I like my aerobatics. Oh, man. I think I had some lag there. Let's try it again. Hey, we got bombs again. Let's go try and take out that other tank. I don't remember where the little sucker's at. Oh, there he is. Down over there. Got it. Ah, didn't kill it though. My favorite project. There it is. This is the one I always test my German planes under. I thought I released that bomb. There we go, that was a better pass. Now we're going to try something that probably won't work. I don't think I've ever tried this in a 110. Oh, we did it. We did it. Yeah, we'll get rid of that. Yeah. Where's my hurt? Oh, there it is. Yeah, we'll just head back to base. Yeah, so there are 3 kind of surviving Bf-110s in the world. One's mostly finished, and it's made up of a bunch of parts. The one of them though is in the Messerschmitt Bf-110G, vert number 730301, and that is currently it says it's not currently fully assembled, which means they're probably still working on it. But it's displayed at the Royal Air Force Museum's London site at Hedron, North London. Although the fuselage is visible, a G-series night fighter. It was likely built in 1944. It served in the come on, I practiced this earlier. Nachtjagdgeschwader 3, the unit responsible for night air defense of Denmark and North Germany until Germany surrendered in 1945. It was one of 5 Bf-110s taken by the British for technical evaluation. In 1946, it was selected for preservation by the Air Historical Branch. It was eventually moved to the RAF Museum in 1978, where it has remained ever since. There's one in Germany, Messerschmitt Bf-110 F2, vert number 5052. It's displayed at the Deutsche Technik Museum in Berlin. Additionally, the Technik Museum Speyer preserves the wings and other parts from Bf-110 that was recovered from a lake in Sweden in 1945. During the war, the aircraft landed on the frozen lake after being damaged by Swedish anti-air fire. So yeah, that's it for the 110. I think it's a neat looking plane as well as a really well functioning plane. Might not be the prettiest thing in the world, but it gets its job done quite well. It does get a lot of flack for being kind of slow and kind of unmaneuverable, but you know, that was a heavy fighter. I mean, heavy fighters weren't meant to be agile as much as they were meant to be hard hitting. The exception to this is, of course, the American P-38, which was hard hitting and highly maneuverable, and was about the counterpart to the Bf-110. At least for American planes, its counterpart was the P-38. In fact, I will be posting in the description below a U.S. Army training video from 1942 about how to identify a Bf-110, and they do a good comparison with the P-38. So that's a neat one. I also found a video that had a Bf-110 in action against a B-17. It's got the gun cam footage from the Bf-110. So that's an interesting video. Seeing what it can do to a heavy bomber. So yeah, well, thank you for joining me, and we'll see you next time. I think we'll be doing something Russian next time. And yeah, talk to y'all later.